Hi, my name is Terry Kimball, President and CEO here at the Chandler Chamber, and today I have with me Rachel Walden, running for Arizona Corporation Commission. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, Rachel, tell me a little bit, why do you want to run for the Corporation Commission?
So I feel like what we've seen in government is an overreach. I've seen it most of my life. We have government interfering in all sorts of affairs, from the very lowest levels of government on the school board where I sit up into the highest levels of government. And we're not going to secure our future if we continue to overregulate our world out of any sense and out of any affordability and prosperity. So I got involved in politics on the Mesa School Board right now. And I ran because I felt very passionate about making sure that my daughter was going to inherit the liberty and the prosperity that I was able to inherit from this country. And I'm just taking that fight to a larger level, to the big stage, statewide for Corporation Commission, to do the same thing, to fight and ensure our liberty and prosperity for future generations.
So you talked a little bit about your political, your foundation. So stepping up into the Corporation Commission is a statewide organization, and they wear many hats. Mm-hmm. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges facing Arizona that the Corporation Commission is going to have to take note on within the next 5 years?
So some of our big challenges right now is we have a lot of companies that want to come to Arizona. So just one of our providers, I'm going to use APS as an example, but the amount of companies that want to come here, they need to provide 40% more energy than what they're providing now. So APS and SRP, they both hit record production this summer. They've produced more energy than they've ever produced in their company's history. They need to take that amount and increase it by 40%. So we have a queue of companies that want to come here, which is good because we want a robust economy. And the companies that want to come here, they have high-paying jobs that they bring to Arizona, but we've got to ramp up the energy generation. And so like one of the fastest ways to do that is renewable technology, but that does put a strain on the grid, and we have to factor in reliability. So I think the commission is going to have to find that balance between developing quick generation, making sure that we have reliable generation for all of the customers in the base, not just the industrial users, but the residential users, and then making sure that those costs of the companies coming here don't get passed down to the residential customers, because it wouldn't be fair for them to have to pay for those costs. So there's a lot of things to factor in there, especially when we look at the integrity of the grid. So the grid was designed for predictable, reliable energy that you get from something like coal and nuclear. Renewables cause energy surges. So there's grid infrastructure that needs to be ramped up. We've got to invest more money into the grid. And so how do we do that fairly so that we're not making people pay for something that it's not their fault that had to be done, right? So those, I think that's like the big concern right now is development. We also have some concerns with our water companies. So the commission regulates over 350 water companies, which is unusual. I found out, like, most states don't have that many water companies. We have water companies that service really small territories, maybe 20 households. There are water companies that they've never had investors. They haven't reinvested in their infrastructure, so they're not up to code, and they're bankrupt. So some of them, I heard, aren't even getting water to their customers. And there's going to be an opportunity there for other water companies to purchase those water companies, and the commission will oversee that. The issue of kind of fairness comes in with how do we have these water companies, the company that buys the small one, how do they fix that infrastructure and bring them up to code? Who pays for those costs? Is it just the 20 households? They're not actually going to be able to do that. The costs are going to be exorbitant. How do we spread that out amongst ratepayers without making them pay too much for something that is a territory that they're not in? Does that make sense? So it's like a lot of moving parts there too, but trying to be fair and trying to get water companies up to code. There's going to be mergers and acquisitions that happen, and the commission will oversee those service territories and those rates.
Very complicated issues, water and power.
Yeah.
So, the Chandler Chamber represents about 172,000 employees here in Chandler. If elected to the Corporation Commission, how will you foster a positive relationship with our business community and the Corporation Commission?
Sure. Well, we want to have that positive relationship. My mom's a small business owner. She started her own company when I was young, and I worked for her when I was going to college. So I do understand. That's the bread and butter of I think our economic freedom, like the ability that you have to create wealth for yourself or be able to make your own way in this world. For so many people, it starts with running their own business. So we want the commission to be an effective and responsive organization for our businesses. They have to do their filings with the Corporation Commission. Now, the commissioners don't really get involved in that part of it. Like, that doesn't come before the commission. But I feel like we are responsible for the staff and for the technology that we put out. So making sure we have a good website, making sure we have the right tech, that it's easy for people to do their corporate filings, to start a business, and that it doesn't take months and months to get things done. Because I've heard stories out on the campaign trail where questions from people and they're submitting something to the commission. It's been 3 months. They haven't heard anything. We need to make sure that our staff there has a much faster turnaround time than that, and that we're finding ways to gain efficiencies in the organization. And that's actually something I did in my career. So I was at Vanguard, and for 10 of those years, I managed institutional clients. So I had large market corporations. I did their retirement plans, and I was on that administrative side of regulation and compliance. And one of the things that I did was work with my clients to see where we could make process improvements in the work that we were doing to streamline our administration. So that's something I'd be able to bring to the commission too, when we look at where we're slow or where we're lagging and where maybe we could find ways to increase our efficiency.
Well, that is a really great lead-in to talk about how have you prepared yourself to run for the Corporation Commission?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I did campaign with, so two of the current commissioners I campaigned with a couple years ago when I did some volunteer work for them. And that's what really got me exposed to what the commission does and all the pieces of the commission, which I thought was so interesting, because to me there was nothing more important than securing our future for Arizona than to make sure that we have energy and water, right? It's the driver of everything. So I got exposed to it a couple years ago, and then with running, I just got in there and just started digging into the internet, into energy, reading tons of articles, fact checking everything. Somebody gives me a piece of information, I go, oh, that's interesting. Now I'm going to Google it and see what other people say, and find out what people are talking about. What's the conversation? What are our issues? How do we fix these issues? So it's been on my part like a ton of research, not just going out campaigning, but making sure I understand the problems we're facing and the different ways to approach them.
Great. So in your opinion on energy efficiency and efficient rules, what do you think should be a priority in Arizona?
I think the priority should be the free market. So, we don't know where technology is going to come from. We don't know where the next breakthrough is going to be. So we need to be open-minded about what resources there are. We also have supply and demand issues in energy. We have fluctuating prices. Like, people don't realize natural gas fluctuates. We know oil fluctuates in our fuel tank. When we fill up our fuel tank, we know those prices fluctuate, but natural gas fluctuates. We have changes in supply and demand. We saw with Winter Storm Uri in Texas, all the fallout that happened there when they didn't have enough supply to meet the demand. So we should have multiple options in energy, and that's where the priority is the free market, right? The market's going to help us determine what we need. We don't want to rule anything out. We shouldn't be banning resources or promoting resources because of those constant changes in our resources.
Great points. So let's talk about that, because that variable cost or variable fluctuation, how will you ensure that the cost of utilities remain affordable for all Arizonans? You touched on it briefly at the beginning.
Yeah, affordability is key, and that's most of my campaign is, what's affordable balancing out the reliability. So all of the above approaches is proving to be what's most affordable. Arizona is ranked 49th in overall energy, second lowest in the nation. So energy overall, so that's natural gas, fuel, and utilities. So we are fortunately on the low end of that, but prices are continuing to increase. Utilities are not safe from inflation, right? So, we're seeing like chlorine, for example, went up 300%. All these different materials,
Thank you, COVID.
yeah, materials that are used in energy production, in water safety, those materials are going up in cost. And that's why we need options. So like the more options our utilities have, they can make decisions on a same day basis or even just a day ahead basis, deciding how much renewables are we going to use. Are we going to turn on our natural gas peaker plants? Do we need to ramp anything up or down? And they can make those decisions pretty much in real time to try to maximize our savings. So it goes to, I think that, again, the free market approach, but not limiting and not over-regulating anything to keep things affordable, and just making sure they've got options, because you can't put all your eggs in one basket. It's like investing. It really is.
So let's talk a little bit about that. How do you think Arizona should really maintain that diversified energy portfolio?
Well, I think we need to have a commission with people such as myself that are opposed to government mandates and opposed to subsidies. So whenever we mandate anything on the commission, the cost of that mandate is recouped by the utility with the rate of return. So for example, the Renewable Energy Standard Tariff was something that was mandated by the commission onto the utilities. They said 15% of your energy had to come from renewables. And that's fine to put some renewables in the mix, but at the time they did it, renewables cost more money. And whenever you tell a business they have to do something, and all of a sudden they're changing their business model, they didn't forecast for it, that's going to cost them more money. And it did, and the current commission put out a press release in February, and they said that tariff plus the design side management of trying to meet those efficiency rules cost ratepayers $3.4 billion. Since then, it's a lot of money. So we really shouldn't be having to mandate anything. I think a lot of our businesses are responsible, and they're trying to do what's just and prudent for their customers. We oversee that in the integrated resource plans when we do their rate cases. So there's really not a need for us to go out and mandate energy generation with the utilities. And then, of course, the subsidy programs, when those rate cases come to the commission, we can roll back those subsidy programs, because that's really something where maybe a special interest group gets a discount, but the cost of that discount gets socialized among all of the customers. So it's not really fair across the board. Those things, as we repeal them and we stop doing mandates, should free up the utilities to do what's going to be the cheapest option for them, also factoring in that reliability need.
Great comments. So we've kind of touched on a lot of things in a short period of time.
Yeah.
But what else would you like Arizona voters to know about you, or why they need to elect you to the Corporation Commission?
Well, something the commission does, and it's on the docket every meeting, but it doesn't get talked about, is security and investment fraud. So they actually regulate that marketplace. They oversee the licensed and registered securities agents, and then the investments. So companies that have $100 million or less fall under the jurisdiction of the commission. If it's like a really big company, like a BlackRock or something, that's the Attorney General. But a lot of our investment companies fall under the commission, and so they do go after companies for defrauding investors. So I'm the only candidate that's been securities licensed. I have a background in finance, and I was at Vanguard for 12 years, I mentioned earlier. And I'll be able to fill that niche of understanding what those laws are and helping the other commissioners understand where laws have been broken and the need to try to recoup assets for those investors.
Great points. Well, thank you for that. Rachel Walden, candidate for Arizona Corporation Commission. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.